Right, I'll let them in from the lobby then. Oh, that seems to have... Oh, right, okay. Hello. And we are live with the DFT number 3 webinar. What a treat to be here. It's hard to concentrate with the constant sound of people arriving. So forgive me for a second. I don't know how to mute that tone and also not mute myself so you can't hear me. Thank you so much for being here on the 29th of July. You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with us. We only have in the studio a team of 2. That's myself and John Cooper, who you'll be hearing from shortly. But we have recordings, would you believe, like it's the year 2024 or something, from Dr. Gareth Tilley and Dr. John Harrod Booth. What a treat is in store. So without further ado, let's go over to the next slide. I wonder, John Cooper, if there is a setting on these webinars where you can just say, just let people in rather than having them come in the lobby constantly and trigger that noise. Maybe something for us to think about next time. So you can see here, guys, you're going to have the welcome and introductions from myself. I will pass over to John Cooper and he could introduce himself in a minute, but I'm Paul Chandler. I'm the service owner for the Digital Traffic Orders project. And then there's going to be an update from the DFT. You're going to hear from Gareth from the past talking about stakeholder engagement. John Harrod Booth talking about the data specification. We'll go over to the Q&A. Feel free to make use of that Q&A. We've got a little bit about how private beta is going to work as well. Denise, no, don't let her in. And then we're going to hear a bit more about sort of what's upcoming over the next few months from John Cooper. So without further ado, I'll let John Cooper take over the share. And we've got a little Menti poll, I believe. John Cooper.
Hi everyone. Yes, I'm just trying to pull up the Mentimeter, which is a online polling facility. We are just going to run a question for you. I will put the link in the chat. You can join on menti.com or via the Mentimeter app. Now, just trying to get the right window. Here we go. Right, there we go. That should now be showing the question, which is, how did you hear about this webinar? Whilst you're getting that mobilized, I shall just read out the code for menti.com is 39975870, and the link is now in the chat. Just to go back a couple of steps, I'm John Cooper from the Traffic and Technology team, and I am the product owner on the D-TRO Beta.
John, I'm in the chat and I can't see it. I'm just wondering if you put it in before the webinar started, if we lost it.
There we go. Sorry, it
nice.
didn't get activated.
And so can we have that code again, please, John, sir?
Yeah.
It's also on the screen at the top as well.
Yeah,
Just FYI.
the code again is 39975870. I shall write that code in the clear as well. Okay, thank you. Cool. Just leave this running on screen for a little while longer, and the numbers are rising on the attendance to the webinar.
It's neck and neck between previous webinar and colleagues. Oh, previous webinar nudging into the lead. Shout out to the people Google searching for this. Other search engines are available, not that you'd know from John Cooper. Bing meets all my needs. Well, I think that's given us a flavour, JC. I said I was going to say we weren't going to proceed until we get more than 100, and we've smashed that.
Yeah, we're showing at 187 on the webinar, and 114 and rising have completed. So that probably gives us a good enough idea. I will leave this running, but we'll take it off the screen. Okay, Paul, if you want to go back to the presentation. So you still be able to fill in the Menti, but it won't be on screen. We'll go back to it later.
Okay. So, update from the DFT. The private beta is still scheduled to be in September. That was our last update, I do believe. It is going to be more sort of the middle part of September rather than the early part now. I won't bore you with the delays we've experienced internally, but there are nothing to do with the project or the project team. I can assure you of that. That obviously has a knock-on effect on public beta, but it is still due to be in place, public beta, before the end of the year. But we are getting into kind of, you might have already had your Christmas party possibly by the time it goes live now. You might find that we say, yes, public beta is open, it's able to join, and then when we get into January, we will do a lot more publicity, once we get the Christmas period out of the way, and that might work quite nicely, to be honest. A soft launch and then ramping up in 2025. I think we may have intimated to you at the last webinar that we were hoping to come here today with sort of a concrete update on timescales. We can't do that in terms of the consultation. Realistically, looking back now, it's only been like 3.5 weeks since the election, so we haven't got that nod from the minister that they are minded to proceed with D-TRO. We're sort of getting into the stage now where we're hoping to kind of move up the list. Eagle-eyed viewers will note that decisions about HS2 and stuff might be coming out today potentially, I think, or not coming out today after being rumoured to, or whatever the case may be. So we know who our minister is now for this, or our junior minister. So hopefully we'll be able to say, we've got the nod, the consultation will go out, the consultation will have some dates around when it's going to be legally compliant and all that kind of good stuff. Now I'm going to pass over to John Cooper to talk about. He's put a lot of hard work into this next couple of areas, so I'll let him talk. John.
Thanks, Paul. Yes, it's good to know that we are making good progress on the ability to go into the private beta. What I've been working on is the GitHub, which, as many of you will know, has been a private external GitHub up until now. A few months ago, we started to experience significant troubles with the number of simultaneous users on our GitHub repo that we were allowed to have. This was down to internal having to pay for licenses within the DFT, and we were hitting the maximum number. Since then, we've been working with our esteemed colleagues in digital to move towards a public external GitHub. And I'm pleased to announce that we are planning to launch this tomorrow. I anticipate that the contents of the current repo will be cloned over to the new public one. I can't give out the exact address of the new public one quite yet. I also hope that the existing private one doesn't disappear in a whiff of smoke. As soon as the new public one is created, there's a small handover period. But basically what going public will mean is that anybody will be able to see the documentation for D-TRO. This will remove the need for us to laboriously vet applications, send out reminders. Even for people that have been added, they've got deleted, they have to come back on again. We will just be under a unlimited number of people being allowed to be on the GitHub, and it will be publicly visible, meaning that you don't need to sign in order for it to be seen. You will need to sign in on GitHub in order to participate. So we will be disseminating all the full information on that very soon, which is great news because that has become a real pain for us in order to having to manage it as private. On the recordings on YouTube, many of you will have seen that we have co-opted the Street Manager YouTube channel with our own playlist. Here we have put the videos of webinars that we've recorded ourselves via this Teams facility, and other additional stuff has been put on there too. We will have the recording of this webinar on there as soon as possible after the close. And you may find that the very first webinar may or may not still be available on the original link that it was on. We use a different platform for that. We will keep it curated and up to date as possible. I will put the link in the chat, and I also see there's a request for the link for the public GitHub. Yes, we will be writing out again with all this information on both the new GitHub when it comes in. I won't have that until it is launched, and then I do have the YouTube playlist link, and I will paste it in as soon as possible. So that's a quick update for me on the technical side of the management of the project, and hopefully it will be a lot smoother now we get to go into public GitHub.
Thank you, John. Okay. Now we are operating without a parachute here. Let's give this a go. I'm going to try and play a video within the PowerPoint in a webinar. What could go wrong? John, if people start saying no sound, can't see or something, will you just come in and shout? But I'm going to press play now. Thanks, Paul. Very good start to the webinar there. Well, here we are in the past. We've already done introductions, so I don't need to introduce myself, but we do have, who we won't have in the future, Dr. Gareth Tilley. Gareth, say hello. Who are you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Gareth Tilley.
Well, that's horrifying, isn't it?
You will be familiar with me from the previous webinars. I work for PA Consulting with a delivery partner for the D-TRO service, and my role is the Stakeholder Engagement Manager.
I'm Troy Tilley. You might remember me from such webinars as Webinar 1 and Webinar 2. Well, Gareth,
Absolutely.
we're talking private beta today, and how we're going to engage with people during that phase of the project. How are you thinking it's all going to shake down?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I mean, it really is critical for us.
Okay, when I pause it or do anything, it pauses. Right, okay, I've learned my lesson. Right, hang on.
This stakeholder engagement piece, because the key purpose of the private beta phase is for us to gather feedback from the users on the service. So as I say, it's invaluable that we get as much quality feedback as we can to just ensure that when we move into public beta, the service is as fit for purpose as possible. So we've discussed this as a team, and there's 4 key areas that we're really looking for feedback on during private beta. So one is on the documentation itself. So we've got a user guide, and we've also got a whole host of technical documentation. So that's the data specification. In there, we've got the data model, the interface control documents, and the JSON schema. So that's a core suite of documentation that we'd really like feedback on. In addition to that, we've got 3 key processes that we'd like feedback onto, and how well people have found that, and any useful changes that we could make. So one of that is the onboarding process to the service. The second one is publishing the API, the use of that API in particular for traffic regulation authorities. And then on the flip side of that is the consuming API. So that's those data users who are looking to take data out of the service and making sure that's fit for purpose as well. So that's pretty much the suite of areas that we're looking to get engagement on.
Okay, so what sort of mechanisms have we got for getting this feedback from stakeholders?
Thanks, Paul. I'll just flick on to the next slide because that outlines some of the detail there.
Aha.
So the way we've got the structure of engagement for the D-TRO service is we've got a hierarchy here, haven't we? So effectively, we've got this working group that we're running now. This is the 3rd webinar in the series for the working group, and that's open to all. So we've got a really good turnout for these, and that's our way of engaging with the community as a whole. Then we've got a particular technical working group that's also open to all, but in reality, the people who attend that are the people who are really focused on those on the technical specification, and we've had a lot of useful feedback already around areas like location referencing through the technical working group, and that's, as I say, open to all too. What we're then looking to do for private beta is to have a defined layer of participants, and we see that as a kind of holistic group across traffic regulation authorities, digital solution providers, and data consumers. And in order to engage with that group, we envisage having kind of further workshops and webinars.
So when you say workshops, are we talking about what, like online workshops, or maybe something in person? I assume probably what, in London, if it was going to be in person?
Yeah, ideally we would do some stuff in person, and we're very much hoping to do that. Not necessarily just in London though, Paul, because we're very conscious that we're creating a national service. So ideally we'd do some in London, but we'd certainly like to do others around the country as well. So yeah, that's very much our aim.
Maybe the DFT office in Leeds for one, possibly?
Indeed, yes, up to Yorkshire. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Great stuff, great stuff. Looking forward to it. Tell me more about this technical working group as well.
Yeah, so going back to that kind of 4 tiers of areas we'd like particular engagement on, the technical working group is a vehicle we see very much as a way to get feedback on the technical specification, like that suite of documentation. on the data specification. So we've got, as I said, the data model, the JSON files, and the interface documentation as well. So that's going to be very much through the technical working group itself.
Thanks, Gareth. You know how passionate and knowledgeable I am about the interface documentation. What's all this jargon, these TRAs, DSPs, DCs? Can you explain that for us, please?
Yeah, so these are the kind of core users of the service. So the TRAs, principally local highway authorities. We refer to them as traffic regulation authorities for D-TRO because that's the way the legislation terms them. But as I say, essentially that cohort is in the main local highway authorities. We've got digital solution providers who are providing services to several local authorities, and TRAs and DSPs are the ones principally using the API to input TRAs into the service. And then we've got the data consumers, the DCs. They're the ones who are using the extract API to obtain data for their service as well. So that's, typically people who are with sat-nav companies, those kind of people, effectively, Paul.
Thanks, Gareth. It may not have looked like it, but I wrote all that down. How are we choosing these beta participants, by the way? Is it just like, a total potluck, or anyone who puts their name forward gets in, or what's the idea?
So we've been really lucky, or people have been really great at engaging with us today, Paul, as you know. So we've had a number of ways of communicating with people already, and one of those was a questionnaire. And one of the particular questions we asked was, would you be interested in being involved in private beta? Also, people have approached us directly. So we've got a really good long list of people who are keen to participate in private beta. What we're now doing is basically matching that against making sure we've got a really good cohort which matches a good demographic. So what we don't want is a load of, for example, TRAs who are just city-based. We want a kind of rural city. We want a really good blend of local highway authorities of that. So we're sifting through that list at the moment, and we're basing that on people who've put their hands up and said they want to be involved in private beta.
Do you know who I'm really interested in, actually? Let me just check my notes to get the abbreviation right. Traffic authorities that don't have a DSP and are thinking of doing things themselves. I want to make sure that we're engaging with those guys and make sure that D-TRO works for them.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, that's a really good point. And if anyone fits that group on this call, please get in touch through the email address. That's dtro@dft.gov.uk, and we'll certainly like to add you to the list for private beta.
Just finally from me, Gareth, can you say something about the use of data that we get during the private beta?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I mean, the key purpose, I can only emphasize this again, for private beta is the vehicle for us to get that feedback from users. So whilst what we'll seek to do is anonymize that as much as possible, but really we're just looking for that good quality feedback. So our way of we'll take that and anonymize that as much as possible.
Any other messages we want to get out there, do you think?
Just let us know if you want to get involved. I think that's a key one for us. And yeah, as I say, private beta, that's all about us getting that feedback to improve the service.
dtro@dft.gov.uk. Thanks very much, and back to you, future Paul, I guess. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, guys. I know we make that look easy, but that was actually the first take, would you believe? And yeah, great work from Gareth, but I thought the interviewer teased everything out of him nicely there. So these are just the two slides that we saw there that I left in case it all went wrong with the audio there. And then that brings us to private beta participation So I just wanted to put a little bit more meat on the bone of what was said in that video, which was kind of a high level look at engagement. So just to be clear, what we're asking for is during the private beta, you know, long-term viewers might remember Street Manager, and during that private beta, we were just using dummy data, you know, even in what was the production environment. It's not like that for digital traffic orders. You know, we don't have that two-way relationship between a promoter of works and an authority that's agreeing the works. You know, we don't have that need to have everything in that existing database until such time as we switch over to a new database. So what we are asking for here is for real orders to go into that production database. And to skip ahead on the bullet points, we're not intending to wipe that database. So mid-September or late September, whenever you're ready, if you're a private beta participant, you've got a temporary or a permanent order, send it to us, and that's going in that database for realsies. You know, it's not a mock or a test or anything. So I guess we need the ability to let you delete things if there's errors, but there's also going to be a test database available to do anything you want to do in terms of testing. You know, obviously that's much more relaxed, and send us your dummy orders and play around with it in that test database all you like. Just to be clear, we are working with anyone who wants to be involved in private beta in terms of those DSPs, the digital service providers. You know, whether that's a major player who has been with us all the way through and has got lots of clients, and they're telling those clients they're going to be ready to participate in the service, or whether it's a smaller org that has contacted us and we've spoken to them. There's a hand up there, John Cooper, and I don't really know what that means in a webinar world. Feel free to put a question into the chat, and we'll go over to those questions in a minute. But yeah, you know, literally last week, I haven't told you this yet, John, because you're just back from leave, but I had a conversation with somebody who is an existing provider of services and potentially looking to get involved in D-TRO to help their existing clients. So it's, you know, people are sort of twigging onto this and getting involved even now. And then the final point that I'm very keen on is we've had people out there say to us, we already have our orders in a map, or we're planning to build something ourselves for this. Happy to speak to those guys, happy to answer questions. It's always tricky in terms of, you know, if we spend time with our developers on a call talking about your service, we can do that, but obviously it's taking those developers away from developing the service itself. So we always need to be careful with how we allocate developer time. But you know, give us your questions, we'll work to answer them, we'll see how far we can take it. If we need to jump on a call, we can look to do that. You know, I am committed to helping out authorities that want to work on their own solutions. John Cooper, I don't know if you think I've missed anything there, or I tell you what as well, I don't think the questions slide is until after we've heard from John Harrod Booth. Did we want to delve into the questions at this stage?
Yeah, I think so, Paul. There's quite a few questions in there. Some of them I would say are already addressed in the FAQ, which is on the website, but there are some new ones in there too. I've been answering a few of them in the chat itself.
Oh, great work.
Some are fairly basic and were just about the GitHub, the YouTube, and then there's been some commenting and other things going on. Are you in there now, or would you like me to
Oh, me, I'm terrified of getting off this
highlight
screen.
anything?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've answered the ones about GitHub and where the link is, and then John Harrod Booth has kindly explained about getting on GitHub itself. There is a question here about a list and glossary of acronyms and their meanings. I will point you at that point to the website, which I gave a link to in an answer above that question, where we do have a glossary and also the FAQ. The latest version of the FAQ will be coming soon. It did get slightly held up when I went on 2 weeks holiday, I will admit, but we will try and get the new one updated, hopefully with some or all of what's been mentioned in this webinar. Now we are nearly at the end of July.
John, I think it's a very valid point about using acronyms willy-nilly. You can see here in this slide I've written out digital service providers to expressly avoid throwing around those things. So yeah, I think it's all well and good on the project itself to use those shortenings, but when we're doing this sort of exercise, I say let's try and use the full thing, you know.
Yeah. There was a question related to GitHub about who needs to go on there, and do those TRAs working with digital solution providers need to also go on GitHub, or will the DSPs act on their behalf? We do expect that mostly the DSPs will act on the behalf of their customer TRAs, but if any TRA wants to go on GitHub, they are free to do so. Mainly just to read all of what is there. There'll be there is technical documentation there, and it is worth signing up. And now there will be, as of tomorrow, no restrictions on getting on. You won't have the to wonder whether or not your account's been revoked or not. There is a question about government funding of having services. I know that this one is addressed in the FAQ, but would also probably comment that the FAQ was probably written before or maybe just after the election. It is too early yet to see what any position on from the new government is on the provision of any funding for this, but we would probably, as our default position, just say that it is as it was before, that there isn't explicit funding for this, but the new legislation that has come in will be subject to the new burdens procedures. That could change. Not everything has filtered down from the ministers on regards of policies. For example, we don't yet have the legislative program set in order to do the secondary legislation. These sort of things may change in the coming weeks. There is a question about timescales around new TROs and existing TROs, and that there has been a comment about there being some confusion about when these dates would be. And yes, that is tied into that secondary legislation program, because those dates would be included in those statutory instrument type material made during that process. So the date by which the first wave of this is to publish your new TROs, that is still to be confirmed. We will hopefully get a program of when secondary legislation might come. And as Paul said at the top, there would be a consultation on that, and then eventually that secondary legislation would comprising statutory regulations would come into force with dates. We do anticipate there being a difference between the new TRO's dates and then moving to a later date for the existing TROs, and that might be a matter of years between the two. There will be some time before the D-TRO service is fully matured, and all the time it is provided, we'll be continuing to update and improve through the beta process. There's a question about savings and benefits for local authorities, and that relates into the advertising of TROs, the process which has to be followed to do that. It is worth reiterating, we've covered this in previous webinars and probably in the FAQ, the Automated Vehicles Act 2024 doesn't amend the existing legislation requirements around doing your TROs, although it introduces the new requirement to publish digital TROs. It doesn't change that existing regime for advertising of TROs. Whether or not the new government will see fit to try to push through change. The previous government tried at least twice to do this, possibly 3 times, and failed to make that happen. But I'm not going to comment on whether or not that is going to happen in the future. We will, of course, answer all these questions that are in the chat in writing and update the FAQ. When there is a technical question about when will credentials to the API be shared to each participating organization, and is there a way to get access before the private beta launches? That is a good question. We do appreciate that we have said before now that there will be full joining instructions and timetables for the availability of the API. It is possible that the September date for private beta that Paul mentioned may be preceded by the availability of the API, full API endpoints before that. I would need to check with our esteemed technical developer colleagues and the full team on whether or not we think that we can make things available at an earlier date. I don't know if we have a PA team on the call. Do we have?
I think we've got Gabriel.
We've got
Yes.
Gabriel. Maybe
Hello.
Gabriel, you could talk a bit to that question about the availability of the API and credentials.
Yes, so the credentials and availability will be provided via Google. So everybody that will access this platform will have its own API key. So there will be no problem between accessing each other keys. So that will be provided by the CSO, and I think Paul Chandler will be one of the CSOs. So he will be helping, guiding through this. But everyone that is participating will have an API key that is unique. So in this way, you will be able to access the endpoints.
Gabriel, I definitely sound like the sort of person that should be in charge of all that. Yeah, thank you very much. John.
I think there's a specific question about the timing of the availability of the credentials to the API. do we foresee that there is a chance to have these ahead of the September private beta, or is it something that we're only going for at that point?
I think it will be safe to assume that that probably September will be a good date, because we don't want to promise something and to not deliver. So probably September will be a good date.
Yes, and just to add, if any eager beavers, maybe it's a good chance to test one or two, so then we can reach out in the chat after, and then see if end of August we can then use that as a good test.
Thank you, Lokesh. Any other cues of note, John?
Has time been left in the forward program for authorities that do not have a D-TRO solution to procure a software solution? We will need to identify a budget from 25, 26 onwards, and as the spend continues forwards in perpetuity, this may become a full procurement process, depending upon contracts, lengths, and yearly costs. This ties in, I suppose, into the date by which it will become a legal requirement to submit your new TROs for,
Yeah.
which, as previously mentioned, isn't yet finalised. Obviously, in terms of any authorities that do not yet have a solution for doing this, they are going to be looking for as long a lead-in as possible. It will be, I dare say, about a year at least until that date, probably longer. We can't really say at this point. Depends on when we get the slot to do the regs and what the preferred drafting is at that point, and the outcome of the consultation on those regs as well.
Yeah, thank you, John. I suppose in the same theme, this is the third webinar we've done in beta, so hopefully you can sort of use some of this material that we're pushing out to make the case that you need to begin that process. And indeed, the passage of the Automated Vehicles Act into law, you can point to. But also, I do understand that if it's the consultation coming out, acts as a further prompt for you. But yeah, my feeling would be kick off that process as soon as you are able. I do understand it can take a while. Shall we move on to John Harrod Booth's portion, and then we can go back to the Q&A? Okay. Right.
Good morning. My name is John Harrod Booth. I'm supporting DFT in providing the specification for the Digital Traffic Regulation Orders service. And today I'm going to talk to you at a high level about the data specification and its various components. This is a group, a set of technical artifacts that describe how data should be structured and how that data should then be provided into and extracted from the D-TRO central service. I'm going to go through each of these things listed in turn and just give you a brief overview, but I know I'm not talking necessarily to a technical audience, so I'll try and keep this reasonably brief. So we've got the data model itself. The current version has been published by DFT is version 3.2.1. That's a UML data model, so a unified modeling language data model that describes the concepts of the data and how it's structured and how those bits fit together. That's available in two forms. One is a native enterprise architect file with a PostScript QEA, but there's also an XMI file, which is an exchange mechanism actually specified using XML to enable it to be consumed by other forms of modeling software. So both of those are available. Alongside those, there's a more user-friendly description. So there's a data model user guide, which describes field by field every element of the data model, and that's there to really help the users understand what we're trying to achieve with the structuring of the data model. The data model itself is not an exchangeable artifact. It just describes how the data is structured. The JSON schema, so JavaScript notation schema, is actually a mechanism where you can structure the data in a form that can be exchanged. And so that's then provided. And we also provide a very skinny example of a JSON file that conforms to that schema, which enables you to get some understanding of the structuring and format of the elements in that JSON schema. To ensure that what you supply to us and data you take back out of the system meets a certain set of rules, we also have a document which details all of the validation rules that we have. This is not a big brother checking the semantic quality of what you're putting in terms of, is this a valid TRO and have you described it properly? Not at all. The validation rules are very simple. They are looking for things such as schema level validation. So that's if the field that you're trying to fill is a date time field, that you've actually filled it with something that looks like a date time. And if you're supplying codes for authorities, that they conform to the Streetworks list, so the SWA list. So there's a set of validation rules of that sort of nature. And they're all described within the document as well. And then the last two documents are then called interface control documents, and they really describe the API definition. So API is application programming interfaces, and those are what are exposed out from the service for you to be able to either provide data to the central service or extract data from the central service. We've provided two documents, interface control documents. The first is for data publishers, and the second is then for data consumers. They go through and describe each of the API endpoints in detail, and they cover a range of different things. So for example, for the publisher's version, how do I go about posting information to the central service and updating records when I'm providing them? Both of the two documents then cover off things like accessing the history of various records that have been supplied to the central service, searching for D-TRO records within the central service, getting the latest version of the schema, getting the latest version of the validation rules. So that's covered off in the two interface control documents. And all of that together, all of those documents together have been published for the moment on a GitHub repository, which is private to DFT, but is open to those people who request access to that. So a number of local authorities and a number of the software service providers already have access to that private GitHub resource. And if you contact the D-TRO mailbox, details of which I think will be given later in this presentation, then if you wish to gain access to these, then that's the mechanism by which you do it. There is an intention to move that GitHub resource to a public GitHub, which means that anybody can access it. It'll be freely open and available on the internet, so you won't have to request access. You'll just be able to log in and download these various artifacts. This is, of course, the basis for the private beta that will start shortly. And there is a reasonable expectation that people will comment and that change will occur within these technical artifacts. We've already had comments from a number of software providers. I'll call out particularly a set of detailed comments coming from Appiway, very helpful. We've also had technical challenges and comments coming back from some of the local authorities. So, for example, Derby City Council have made comments. And part of the beta process is that we are inviting and welcome people to comment on these specifications, call us up where they're inconsistent in any way, or where they think we've made the wrong choices in how we model things. That's absolutely fine. That is the purpose for doing the beta. So this will form the basis of the private beta. We are particularly interested to get feedback and comments from local authorities who aren't necessarily using digital software providers and will provide data themselves by their own resources. So your feedback is most welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. And it magically goes to the next slide as well. How's he even doing that? Wow. Well, I know it says Q&A, John, but let's press on and go over to your stuff and give people a chance to make any questions about any of that. And then we'll circle back to the Q&A.
Yeah, okay, so back again. Now talking about the engagement program, as some of you will know, we've already talked this year at conferences, events around the country, as well as doing these webinars, getting the website going and the YouTube channel and everything. So our engagement has been steadily ramping up as the year has progressed. Just to highlight a couple of upcoming conferences that we will be at: Highways UK in October, and the TTF autumn event in the middle of November. We will be hopefully at these times be able to talk confidently about going in through the private beta, of course. On the more of the working technical level, we will be having another data specification working group on the 7th of August. This is a not expected for everybody to come to, but if you haven't received an invitation and you are keen to participate in a technical webinar, where there will be quite a nitty-gritty level of discussion, please do email the D-TRO at dft.gov.uk mailbox. Back to Paul. Sorry, there's one more slide. Just to give a shout to the TTF, which runs our website. The link is there. I also put the link in the chat. And there's the mailbox. The YouTube channel link is also on the website and in the chat above. The FAQ will be updated, and the video of this webinar will be uploaded to the channel and embedded on the website too. So there's plenty of ways to keep in touch with what's going on, and obviously as the summer progresses and we're heading towards the final private beta launch, we will have much more information to give to you, and watch this space.
Do you know what, John? I was worried about what we were going to say in this webinar at one point, and now it's like 5 to 4, and we need to get off the air pretty much. Any cues that we need to A before we do?
There are a few technical ones about the data model, which we'll probably save till later, because they're a bit more esoteric, and we'll answer them in writing about, and also ones about file types. Probably one that we could do though is about the linkage between a temporary TRO being updated and sent to the service, and when the works are active and finish, and then the subsequent removal of the order, so that it's no longer shows as a live order think this is in relation to the fact that sometimes the dates of the TTRO are a wider range of dates than that actually takes place. We have had some discussions about this, and we're developing some ideas. I don't know if John Harrod Booth is still on the call, but maybe he could offer us some input in writing on that one. We will get back to you with a full answer. It may also already be in the FAQ. I can't remember.
It might be. It's one of those things that's really easy to say, or even to write into legislation. You know, it's a requirement to do a start and stop on a temporary order or something. But then you start to think, well, what if it's a building site? Who's doing it? Or if it's a utility company, is it linked to the starts and stops that have to be sent to street manager? You know, are we creating work for the council here? What if it's a job that, you know, is only shut for when they get a delivery, or it's, you know, shut every day, Monday to Friday, you know, 8 till 4:30 or whatever it might be. So you quickly run into questions that we need to consider before we put this one out to consultation, I think, John. But yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, looking further down the chat, there is quite a lot of ones that have been answered in some form or another, not necessarily by us, but others have fed in. We will make sense of it all and consolidate it into the FAQ. And if any new acronyms have cropped up since last time we did the glossary, we'll be updating that one too. I'm just looking to see if any of the latest questions cover anything new. But no, I think we've covered all the big ones. And apologies if we didn't talk to your specific one, but we'll, as I say, get it all consolidated in the new FAQ.
Yeah, I think that's key, John. Look at the existing FAQ, that's really good. Look at the updated FAQ when it comes out. Thank you for any technical questions. We're not going to dodge them or anything. Like, we will get back to you on those. And importantly, is it the 7th of August I've got in my head for that webinar? Or
yes,
the technical working group session, rather, on the 7th of August. That helps inform what we need to tell people, the sort of questions that we're getting. So it's all useful stuff. No question will go left unanswered somewhere, guys. I think then all that remains to do is thank Gareth and John for their recordings. Thank you to Lokesh and Gabriel for popping in there and helping us out when they didn't know that we were going to do that to them. And thank you to John for answering all those cues so ably. Take care of yourselves, everyone, and no doubt we'll see you at another webinar in the future. You could have done anything on a hot day like this, and you chose to be with us. Thank you very much. Take care of yourselves. Signing out. Have we ended the event, John?